This is Spanish 2, or Junior Spanish. We're on lesson 7. We're going to start on page 199. Page 199. We're going to head and get started, and we're going to discuss imperfect tense. Imperfect tense. Now, before we actually get into the Spanish portion of this lesson, there's going to be a bit of an introduction for the English language first, so that way we completely understand what it is that we're referring to once we get into the Spanish and the Spanish equivalent or the Spanish translation of what we do in English. So let's go ahead and jump in. In Spanish 1, we were introduced to two tenses. We have the present and the past, known as grammatically as the preterite. You learned that the present tense may be used to report three types of action in the present. We had the simple present, which is I prepare. In English, the emphatic present, I do prepare. And then the present progressive, I am preparing, which in Spanish, it ends up being the same translation. It's yo preparo. But those are the three types of action in the present that we went over. We also learned that the preterite tense may be used to report only two types of action in the past. We have the simple past, and then which is I prepared, or the emphatic past, I did prepare. So simple and emphatic. Now, also that ends up being the same translation in Spanish for both of them. Yo preparé. Yo preparé. Now, unlike the present tense, the preterite tense may not be used to report an action in progress in the past. So if we were to say, I was preparing, we wouldn't use the same translation that we would use for the simple and the emphatic past. In order to report action in progress, which in other words, and just like what it says there, it means that the action is happening in the past, or in other words, so in the past it was happening, it wasn't just one action, it was a continual action, and we'll look into that in a second. In the past, a different type of past tense requiring a totally new set of verb endings. So in order to report action in progress in the past, a different type of past tense requiring a totally new set of verb endings must be learned. And this alternate past tense, called the imperfect tense, will be the subject of study throughout the second quarter. And or in this lesson, we will introduce its basic meanings, uses, and forms. So forget about the second quarter thing. But here we have meaning and uses of the imperfect tense. So now we're on page 200. So the name imperfect means not perfected or completed. As a tense, the imperfect deals with a stretch in time rather than a point in time, with the continuance of an action rather than the conclusion of an action. So in other words, we have here what basically an action in progress. An action in progress. So instead of saying this happened, it becomes more linear and say this is happening, or this happened, or this is happening during, or was happening. So, and we'll look more into that. So according to the imperfect tense, here we have action in progress. These are the three basic types of past action. We have action in progress. I was running, I was preparing, I was working. And when we say I was preparing, we can say at that time. Or I was working when you called. Okay? So that tells us that you were working, it was a stretch of time rather than a conclusion of it. If we have a recurring or customary action, I used to run the mile, I always prepared, I never worked on Sundays. Okay, that's saying it's a recurring action of something happening or something not happening. Also, the third is a state of mind and being. So if we said, I wanted to run a mile, or I needed to prepare, or I liked to work. In this chapter, we will consider only one of these types of past action, which is action in progress. So these are the three basic types of action, and we're going to look into the first one, which is action in progress. Again, this is still English language. Now, in looking back on a past action or event, we may visualize it in one of two ways. As a finished, in this case photograph, so to speak, we're on page 201 on the top. So as a finished photograph, which means something that is completed. A finished photograph means that something is taken, it's not going to change, it's going to stay that way. So it is what we consider completed. So we can say the ship sank. Is it continually sinking? No. Has it sunk yet? Yes. It is completed. It has sunk, it's there, it's not moving. Now, the man climbed the mountains. The man climbed the mountain. Again, he climbed it, it's already done. He's not in the middle of the mountain, he climbed it all the way to the top. Also, the paratrooper fell to the ground. He is not in midair, he's not on the plane or from whatever, or cliff or wherever he's falling from, he's already on the ground. And then again, we have the horses ran around the track, meaning they have run already, they have completed that lap. Now, as a moving picture rerun, that's the second one, and that is in progress. So we have the ship was sinking. So it hasn't sunk all the way yet, it was sinking, it is in the process. All right, it is moving, it's in progress. Now the man was climbing the mountain again. He's not at the top yet, but he's making his way up. The paratrooper was falling to the ground. At this point now, he is in midair, he is falling. The horses were running around the track. So there, once again, the horses didn't run around the track, they were running around the track. The contrast between progressive and completed action may be summarized in what we would say when you're at an auction. The auctioneer normally says, going once, going twice, or going, gone. And it does not matter that both types of action, completed and in progress, eventually came to a conclusion. Like a spinning wheel, we may choose to visualize and report them in either state, in motion or at rest. So again, in motion, John was eating, or John was preparing, was leaving. That is in progress. At rest or concluded, John ate, John prepared, John left. At this point, he has already completed his actions. In general, we choose to report an action in progress when we wish to set the scene for that which is to follow. John was eating when, or John was preparing, John was leaving. Normally when we choose action in progress, we're setting up a scene for what is to follow. Now let's go ahead and look at 202. Often we report both progressive, complete, and completed action in a single sentence. I was taking a test. All right, that is in progress. I was taking a test. Completed will be when my pencil broke. I was taking a test when my pencil broke. I was taking the test. That was the action in progress. What action was completed? The fact that the pencil broke. So my pencil broke. It is completed. And we could say the same. I was playing football. Okay, that was an action happening. That was a stretch of time when I broke my arm. That wasn't, the breaking of the arm wasn't happening continually, or wasn't happening at the whole time that he was playing football. It happened once in the time that he was playing. Now, also, I was eating peanuts when I bit my tongue. Okay, again, he was eating peanuts. Okay, so we had this stretch of time, and this was playing football. I'm just going to call it foot for now. Eating, we'll just call it nuts for now. And then test. Okay, taking a test. We are taking a test. Now these are linear. These are happening in a stretch of time. Now we have here playing football, broke, eating peanuts, bit, taking a test, eating peanuts, playing football, broke, bit, and broke again. Okay? These all happened while the playing, while the eating, while the taking. He broke his foot. he bit his tongue, he broke his pencil. So that's the difference between a completed action and an action in progress. Obviously, the way we report past action as completed or in progress affects the meaning of a sentence. The choice is up to the speaker and depends entirely on the type of effect one wishes to achieve. In progress was I was getting up. Complete will be I got up. And we see there the rest of the examples that we have there. Now, we're going to look at the imperfect forms. So, now we're getting into the Spanish portion of this lesson. Again, this is all over English, so we can understand what it is that we need to accomplish in Spanish here. In English, there's no special set of verb endings which parallel the ed ending of the irregular past tense and can be called the imperfect endings. English accomplishes the idea of past action in progress by a combination of the helping verb was and the ing form of the verb. So we have here, over here, was eating. Okay, this here is the helping verb, and then this is the ing ending that we need. So in English, this is what we need in order to show the imperfect ending or the imperfect tense. Now, occasionally, the simple forms of the past tense convey action in progress. Again, this is still English. I listen. Okay, I listen means, it could be I was listening. As he explained, was explaining. Now, in Spanish, the idea of past action in progress is conveyed totally by the verb ending. And just like how we're normally used to in a lot of words or a lot of situations in Spanish, the verb ending carries the gender assignment, the verb ending carries the number assignment, the verb ending or the word ending can tell us basically everything that there is to know about the tense and about the gender assignment, number, about the modifiers. It can tell us quite a bit. And just like that, in this case, it's the same thing. In Spanish, the idea of past action as progress is conveyed totally by the verb ending. In order to concentrate on the ending, on the meaning, we will limit ourselves in this lesson to the endings for yo and usted only. So we're going to focus mainly on the imperfect ending for yo and usted. For yo and usted. There's any more room. Now, the imperfect endings of regular AR verbs for both yo and usted is the ending ABA. Okay? Now, if we were to say I was talking, I in Spanish is yo, so I, yo, okay? And then we have hablar, which is an AR verb, so it would be yo hablaba. So we have here yo hablaba. Again, hablaba. Now we have the ending ABA here. Okay? And so this is an AR verb. This is the yo form. We have yo here, yo hablaba. Alright, I was talking. So yo, which is I, hablaba, was talking. Now also, it would be the same thing if we said usted. If we were to say usted hablaba. Okay, usted hablaba, you were talking. Now, the imperfect ending of ER and IR verbs for both yo and usted is a stressed I and A. So it would be yo comía. Alright? So again, it would be yo, and these are ER and IR verbs. So comer is an ER verb, yo important when spelling and when pronouncing the words, because that can tell us if it's something that it can even tell us if it's past or present, or in this case, it can tell us what exactly we're speaking about. Now, if it's an IR, again, IR, remember it could be either yo or usted, it's the same thing. So it would be, you have yo or usted, yo or usted. Yo or usted vivía, depending on what you want to say, whether it's I or you. Now, in the absence of contrastive verb endings, the context or inclusion of a personal pronoun identify the subject. So again, we're going to have to look at the personal pronoun to identify the subject. Now, let's jump to page 205. Page 205. And this is a quick part, basically just kind of telling us what we can review so that we can get some more endings. Now, so previous lesson, we learned how to use the imperfect endings ABA, ABA, or a stressed IA, okay? To convey past action and progress. Yo practicaba, I was practicing. Or usted estudiaba, you were studying. I was eating, yo comía, you were writing, usted escribía. In order to concentrate on meaning, the personal endings for only two subjects, yo and usted, were introduced. In this lesson, we will learn the imperfect endings for the remaining subjects. Now, if we look here for AR, ER, IR verbs, we have the list there that basically tells us what each ending would be according to that pronoun or according to that subject. So we have the yo, ABA, usted, or tú. We have, again, same ending, except that we add an S depending on who we're talking about. The nosotros form is habamos, a stressed A there, BAMOS. Okay. Notice that in the AR verb that has a stressed A. That's the only one that has a stressed A there. And then we see the ER and IR verbs as well. Now, let's turn the page to look at 206. Most verbs which are irregular in the present and the preterite tenses are perfectly regular in the imperfect. So remember that we've looked at irregular verbs before, basically that the root of the word changes at least once, and depending on what form of the verb we're talking about, depending on what the pronoun is, that pronoun subject. Now, we can see here though, that when it comes to the imperfect tense, for the imperfect, we notice here that that these are regular, that the root does not change when it comes to the imperfect. So está is the regular, is an AR verb, that is its infinitive spelling. But when we look at the you, or if we say usted or yo, notice that it says estaba. Okay? Notice that it says estaba. Now, notice that está, which is an irregular AR verb, when it comes to the imperfect past tense, notice that it becomes then regular again. So, such regularity is also characteristic of all I, IE, and UE verbs. So, if you would like to look at more of, you can look at the appendix and maybe on page 189 in your vocabulary books to see the completed list of the imperfect forms. That is the conclusion of